So now we're going to learn how to graph by the intercepts. Okay, so I'm going to use the two parentheses. Let's take a look at number 5. So I'm just looking at the parentheses for right now. Now here I'm going to say, okay, what values of x will make each of the parentheses equal to 0? So focus on the first parentheses. What value of x will make that x minus 2 equal to 0? And then we can say, well, x equals 2, right? That's okay. Now focus on the other parentheses. What value of x will make x plus 4 equal to 0? And you will say, well, x equals -4. Okay. Now those two values are going to be my intercepts. Now intercept is basically where do I cross the x-axis? So I have 2 points. I have +2 and then -4. Like I said, each of those parentheses gave me where do I cross the x-axis. Cool, I have 2 points. Now, another thing that I know, we talked about this yesterday, the aperture down here. I know this thing is open down, so gives me a good idea how this thing's gonna look like. This thing is open down. Now, let me find my vertex, okay? I want to find the vertex. What I'm going to do for my x value of my vertex, I know my intercepts are -4 and 2. Right on the x-axis, I cross the x-axis at -4 and 2. Let me find my y value or my vertex. So I'm just going to add those two values, -4 plus 2 and divided by 2. -4 plus 2 is -2, divided by 2 is a -1. So that gives me the x value of my vertex. Basically the number right in between. Now for my y value, I'm going to use this formula. But for x, I'm going to use -1. So I'm going to say -1/4. In my first parentheses, x minus 2. So I'm just looking at this right here. Remember I said I'm using -1 for x. So -1 minus 2 is -3. Looking at the second parentheses, x plus 4. Remember how I said x was -1? I'm using -1 for x. That gives me 3. Okay, when it comes to the sign, I see negative times a negative, so I know that's a positive. So I have 1/4 times 9. Because the 3 times the 3, right? That's where I got the 9 from. So this is 9/4. Notice I multiply the 9 with the number on the top. So 9 divided by 4, it's roughly 2.25. Now this gives me my vertex. My vertex is -1, 2.25. So that one is roughly, we can find the -1 easily. Now 2.25 is just a little bit more than 2. So I'm going to say, let me see if I can zoom in. I'm going to say my vertex is right there. Notice for the x value, I found -1. For the y value, just a little bit more than 2. All right, let me graph this. Let me use black to graph. So it looks like that. All right. Let's take a look at question number 6. Let me find my intercept. What value of x will make each of my parentheses equal to 0? And I hope you guys say, well, x equals 2, x equals -2. So those are going to be my intercepts. I'm going to cross the x-axis. Okay, now let me find my vertex. I know this thing's going to look open up. My aperture is open up because the number at the very beginning is positive outside of parentheses. So I know this is open up. So I have a good idea. Okay, so let me find the x value of my vertex. I'm going to add my two intercepts, -2 plus 2, and divided by 2. Always divide by 2. That's going to give me 0 divided by 2, which is 0. Okay, so I know the x value of my vertex. For me to know my y value, I'm going to use this whole thing. Right, I have the y is equal to my first parentheses. If x is equal to 0, because I'm going to use 0 for x, my first parentheses is -2, right? 0 minus 2. My second parentheses is +2, right? 0 plus 2. So I'm going to say y in this case is -4. My vertex is 0, -4. Cool. I can easily find my vertex. It's right there. I have my intercepts. I have my vertex. I can easily connect this. Let me use black. Looks like this. What I want you to focus on this case is the vertex. We can find the vertex and the intercepts. I expected the graph to be open up. Okay, so this makes sense. All right, let's take a look at question number 7. Let me find my intercepts. What values of x make each of my parentheses equal to 0? And you guys are going to say x equals 4 and x equals -5. Right? Those are the values of x that make each of my parentheses equal to 0. So my intercepts are going to be 4 and -5. Okay, now I need to find my vertex. Cool thing is that I know based on this number, because it's a positive number, I know my graph is going to be open up. If it was negative, I would say it opens down. Okay, so I know it's going to open up, but let me find my vertex. Since my intercepts are 4 and -5, for the x value of my vertex, let me go 4. Let me add them up, divided by 2. 4 plus a -5 divided by 2 is a -1/2. If you want to know it as a decimal, it's -0.5. Okay, not so nice, but it's doable. Let me find the y value. I'm going to use the whole formula here. So y, it's equal to 1/3. My first parentheses, I'm going to have a -4.5. Okay, because remember, I'm using -0.5. As a matter of fact, let me write this as a decimal, -0.5 for x. So my first parentheses was x minus 4, but I said x equals -0.5. So -0.5 minus 4 is -4.5. The second parentheses, remember I'm using -0.5 for x. The second parentheses gives me positive 4.5. Multiply these things out. 1 divided by 3. So this is how I'm gonna type it in my calculator. 1 divided by 3. I'm not even gonna worry about the signs. I know it's negative. So 1 divided by 3 times 4.5 times 4.5. And it will tell me it's -0.5. 6.75. Okay. Not easy, but not impossible. My vertex, right? Negative 0.5, that means it's between the 0 and -1, right in between. Negative 6.75, because my vertex is negative 0.5 for x, which again is in between 0 and -1, right in between. And my y value is negative 6.75. So almost -7. It is going to be about there. Now I have my vertex, I have my two intercepts. I expect my graph to be open up. So this makes sense. Cool. All right. Take a look at our last example for today. Let me find my intercepts. I'm going to say my intercepts are going to be x equals -4 and x equals -1. Again, I'm looking at the values of x that make each of my parentheses equal to 0. So -4, -1. I know my vertex is somewhere in between there. So for me to find the x value of my vertex, I'm just going to add my two intercepts, so -4 plus a -1 divided by 2. Always divide by 2. So I get -2.5. That's not bad. It's between the -2 and the -3. Now for me to find my y value, I'm going to use this. But I'm going to use -2.5 for x. So I'm going to have that y is equal to 1.5. Because remember I said x equals -2.5. So -2.5 plus 4 is positive 1.5. The second parenthesis will give me a -1.5. Because -2.5 plus 1 is -1.5. Remember, I'm using -2.5 for x. When I multiply this out, according to my calculator, I get -2.25. So my vertex is -2.5, -2.25. So my vertex is gonna be about there. So I have want you to, for today, my focus for today is I want you to be able to find your intercepts. Like, where do you cross the x-axis? And I want you to be able to find the vertex. It's okay if you're a little bit off, but for accuracy, if you want to really be accurate, find more points. Find more points on your graph and then to be more accurate. Right? Come up with random values of x and find the corresponding y.